Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 285 of the All Dolphins podcast. As you can plainly see, I am joined by another member of the South Florida media, a Dolphin beat writer who will be a regular guest on the podcast. I am talking, of course, about the world famous, the one and only Chris Perkins. Chris, how are you, bud?
I'm good, Alain. How are you doing, man? Is it Alain or Poop? How do I refer to you here?
However you want to call me, just
All right.
just don't call me late for dinner. The 75-year-old joke. How's that?
There you go. I like that. I like that humor.
The old man humor. See,
yes, yeah. That's like you, me, and Hal in the press room.
As we can relate, we're all old geezers.
Right. Exactly.
Poop and Perk. I like that. There you go. Poop and Perk, or Perk and Poop, however we want to do it for these episodes. We are in the middle of the off-season program. The damn schedule, the NFL is lagging. I don't know about you, man. I want those dates. I want those dates and times. I want to know when they're playing who at what time.
Yeah. And you know what? As I walked outside today, and to me, there's a certain feel. I guess it's the humidity, but early morning when the summer starts, and I start thinking it's time for training camp. It's time for OTAs, and that also tells you it's time for the schedule release. So I'm with you. Release the dang schedule. Let us know. Create something. We're dying here. We need some excitement. We need something new.
Is there one game on the schedule that stands out to you? To me, and I did this. I did a story on theside.com/NFL/Dolphins, as you can see under my name, ranking the most attractive matchups. And to me, it's got to be Buffalo until the Dolphins knock them off atop the AFC East. I mean, they have some other, juicy matchups. Yep. San Francisco coming down to Hard Rock Stadium. Christian Wilkins return. At Houston facing CJ Stroud, at Green Bay facing Jordan Love. Is there one that stands out to you?
No, I agree with you. It's Buffalo, and it's both of the Buffalo games until you can get that division title from them. It went from New England to Buffalo, and you thought the Dolphins had it last year. So definitely Buffalo, but Poop, all the road games. This has not been a good road team under Mike McDaniel. They're 7-12 on the road, 1-10 on the road against playoff teams. So I'm really looking at all the road games. This team has got to win the road games because, to me, this season is all about securing that home playoff game. So you've got to win road games in order to do that.
And in fact, that was part of, I'm going to give you a little free pub here. That was part of a column that you wrote for the South Florida Sun-Sentinel. So check it out. Even New England, all the road games, you're really jacked up about a game at New England, really?
Oh yeah. I mean, look, that's a division road game. Those are right. I mean, those are important. So and look, I really don't think that this Dolphins team on the road is at the stage that they can overlook anybody. At home, that's a guaranteed victory. The Dolphins at home against a non-playoff team is a guaranteed victory. Bet the mortgage on it. They're probably going to cover and all that kind of stuff. But any road game, I'm just a little bit hesitant. I really don't care the opponent, and then especially a division opponent. Yeah, I'm going to keep an eye on it. Yeah.
No, that's fair. They did have a couple of blowout wins on the road last year. Yep. I'm not sure I'd include the Jets because that game actually was close until the Javon Holland pick six right before halftime. But they completely spanked Washington. That was a very impressive road performance. But no, I mean, I don't disagree with you. And if you have a preference, this is an interesting debate here. Would you rather have Buffalo at home in September, but then you have to play at Buffalo in December, or vice versa?
Ooh, man. You know what? I really don't think that temperature is as big a deal as we make it out to be for this team. I think it's been more that you're playing a superior opponent than the temperature. And you look at the Buffalo playoff game, you look at the Kansas City playoff game, look at the Buffalo regular season game. But yeah, I would rather – I think really we saw what Buffalo did here in 2022, right, when they all wilted in the sun in September. So, yeah, so for that reason, yeah, bring Buffalo here early in the season. Bring them all here early in the season because I do think that the humidity has a bigger effect on a team than the cold.
Oh, I agree. And please back me up on this because I have some Dolphin fans who keep fighting me on this. that the Dolphins at home in September is the biggest home field advantage in the NFL because it's different for both teams. This idea of like, well, Dolphins have to play in Buffalo in December. They're not used to the cold in Buffalo is. Yes, but on that particular day, it's just as cold for both teams. It's not as hot for the Dolphins when they play at home in September because of the configuration of the stadium where they get to be in the shade standing on the sideline, whereas the other team is frying the entire game.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And I'll tell you this also. Maybe
that's why you're on the podcast, Perk. That's why you're on the podcast, because you agree with me 100%.
There we go, man. I like it. I like how you think, Poop. Like maybe a decade ago, I did a very informal look at the domed stadiums in America. And as I recall, there were 23 of them. 14 of them were down south to get people out of the sun. Like people in Cleveland and Chicago will sit up in the cold weather and the snow and the ice, but people in Phoenix and Miami and Houston are not sitting in that hot weather. It's debilitating. It like robs you. And I'll tell you this though, Poop, that when we talk about the biggest home field advantage, I've often asked players, well, what about Denver? Because that's altitude, and I've heard two cases for that. Well, yeah, that's a very tough one, and no, the humidity in Miami is still tougher to deal with. I know if you're a pitcher in baseball, that Denver is tougher because that ball flies. But yeah, the coming down here in September, it's relentless, and it's a huge advantage for the Dolphins. I agree with you.
No, it's crazy, and it's more like the Dolphins under Don Shula way back when always had great records in September, but also and even at the Orange Bowl, but also partly because the Dolphins always were really, really good.
Right. And you see, here's the thing that I think with the weather is that you just can't. Well, that I think it's a fact. You just can't catch your breath, and that's probably the biggest thing. That you always see these guys just sucking wind. You can't catch your breath in this humidity and this thick air, and it just hangs over you like a blanket. And to me, that's the biggest thing. And when you talk to athletes, I mean, we feel it when we walk outside. You try to play tennis, you try to play golf, you're jogging, you're walking, like it's debilitating. That sun is just leaning on you, and it's relentless, and you get no break. And imagine chasing down Tyreek Hill or trying to block, Bradley Chubb in the fourth quarter, and you've got 50 plays on you already, and you're looking at these dudes, and it is a rough thing. I think with maybe with the local sports, football, you might not see it as much because in the hot games, right, September, October, you're playing the non-conference team, so you really don't need that edge anyway, right? You don't need that edge to. I say this all the time, and the FAMU people are going to be upset. You don't need the humidity to beat FAMU, right? It's give me another team, Poop, so I can get the FAMU people off my back.
Rutgers.
Now Greg Schiano is going to come after me.
Oh, okay. So you want to list Central Connecticut State? How's that?
There you go. There you go, Poop. There we go. Right. Somebody will come after us, but who cares? We'll fight them off. But
all three of their fans are going to come after us.
That's right. It seems like there was an assistant coach for the Dolphins from there or something like that. But anyway, we'll deal with him later if we have to. But yeah, the football, I don't think you see that debilitative effect as much because early, September, October in college football, quite often that's the easier games, and later in the season you get the tougher games. But definitely NFL, where it's evenly distributed for the Dolphins being here in September, huge advantage.
Yeah, and I don't know that plays a ton of noon games early in the season. The other part too, and again, I hate to be that guy, but I'm going to be that guy. Unless you've lived in South Florida and been here in the summer, maybe you don't have a full appreciation for just how oppressive it is. I mean, it's bad. Okay, so let's circle back. So we talked about Buffalo. As it stands right now, with all of the Buffalo lost in the offseason, Micah Hyde, Jordan Poyer, Gabriel Davis, Stephon Diggs, Leonard Floyd, I think, left. I'm forgetting somebody else. There's another DB who left. Dane Jackson maybe, or Teron Johnson. One of those two left. Yep. Where do the Dolphins stand in the AFC East?
You got to beat Buffalo. Last year was the year, Poop. That was the we're taking over year, and it didn't happen. So now it just shifts back to Buffalo, and you got to knock off the champs to be the champs, and that's kind of where I'm at with it. The Dolphins are a better team. The Dolphins should win the AFC East, but that was the case last year. We got to see them do it, and really, I think one of the big things there is going to be staying healthy. But beyond staying healthy, we've seen these late season injuries afflict the Dolphins the last 2 years. You've got to stack victories early because you cannot go into this season thinking we're going to be healthy. This year is going to be different. You've got to go into this season thinking we're probably going to have above average injuries again, maybe not to Tua and maybe not losing both edge rushers and Jerome Baker, maybe not as bad. But you have to think our injuries, according to the recent trend, will probably be above average late in the season. So we need to stack wins early so we can get that home playoff game.
Yeah, but that's what they did the last 2 years. If you look last year, I mean, they were 11-4. 2 years ago, they were 8-3. So they have done the job early on in the season. And here's the other thing. To me, it's almost the way they've gone about the offseason. And overall, with their body of work, with the salary cap situation they were in, I think they've done a pretty good job. Christian Wilkins got crazy money, and I don't blame the Dolphins for not paying it. Robert Hunt got crazy money for a guard. I don't blame the Dolphins for a millisecond for not paying it. But it seems to me that a lot of what the Dolphins have done is basically, let's maintain what we have, build up a little bit more depth. Let's put ourselves in the same position we've been. And then maybe this is a year where we get over the hump, both in performance and maybe we don't get hit by all the injuries. You remember 2 years ago, Dolphins had a shot in that Buffalo game, in that Saturday night game, because I keep mentioning this. They had the ball with 6 minutes left in the tie game.
Yep.
The drive stalled. Buffalo came back and drove down the field and kicked the game-winning field goal. And then last year, it kind of fell apart. So I'm almost of the opinion, and here's the other thing, too. Also, you mentioned injuries. Is there a team that's really immune to those? I mean, if you're looking at the AFC East, for example, the Jets, I mean, you want to talk about the Dolphins having a lot of potentially, what's the word I'm looking for, worrisome situations because of age and because of injury. I mean, the Jets are the poster children for that kind of team.
Yep, 100%. The Dolphins have had injuries to key players, Poop, and as you know, when you look at Tua 2 years ago, late last season, it's Tyreek and Jalen Waddle, Bradley Chubb and Jalen Phillips are out. Jerome Baker is out. As far as the number of injuries, they might not be above or worse than anybody else, but injuries to key players late in the season, this team gets hit hard. So. Yeah, I know it's tough to say you've got to stack more victories when the last 2 years you've started off 8-3 and 9-4, but that's the reality of it. You can't. It's crazy to ask somebody to start off 10-0 or 8-0 or 9-0, but man, Poop, there's just really no other realistic answer. And look, I agree 100% with what you say about this offseason. I think it's been a very good offseason. And what I wrote was that I think that I see the Dolphins' strategy for 2024. I think that they're trying to get veteran talent to win now and also get some young talent to build up some depth. And if you look at the guys they got, right, Jordan Poyer, 33 years old, OBJ, 31 years old, Shaq Barrett, 31 years old. But these guys can step in and play right now. And no, they're not going to be here 4 or 5 years from now, but you're still trying to win now. And then with the draft, yes, Chop Robinson. He is somebody for the future who will play now, but he's also somebody for the future, right? Behind Armstead and Kendall Lamb. You look at Patrick Paul. What did I? Wait a minute. Hang on. Behind Phillips and Bradley Chubb. I'm getting all confused here. And then Patrick Paul, you've got your backup left tackle, and you've got your backup running back there with Wright from Tennessee. So they've done a good job of building for now and also building for the future. I like what they've done this offseason. You're restricted. You don't have a whole lot of money. There's not a whole lot that you can do. But, yeah, I do like what they've done this offseason for the most part. I did want them to keep either Xavier Howard or Christian Wilkins, and I know both of them. I wouldn't have given Wilkins that money. I'd have had to talk X way down. X said he wasn't taking a pay cut, so I know they were stuck, and I know they remain stuck financially. But within the constraint group, I think they've done a good job.
No, I agree, and look, I don't know. I don't know if I'm ready to stamp them as Super Bowl contenders. I certainly don't think it's outside the realm of possibility if things fall right. And they're certainly a contending team. I mean, hell, they were 11-6 last year, and they were 11-4 at one point. So this is a good team. The question is, can it be a great team? And that also pertains to the quarterback, who, like it or not, has been good at times, very good at times, excellent, but at crunch time and against playoff opponents, has not. My position has been stated many times on Tua. I think that the Dolphins should let him make him play out the fifth-year option, revisit next offseason. If he balls out, throw the money, show him the money. Yep. Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe I read from you that your position is that they should pay him, but not that much. Is that correct?
My position is that he should play this year on his fifth-year option. And you look, I've said that both sides are playing with fire here, but both sides have reason to force the other side to the table, right? So if you're Tua, you tell the Dolphins, look, you can mess around if you want, but my price is only going higher if I have a good year. If you're the Dolphins, you tell Tua, okay, look, Mike McDaniel considers you his son. You played for Flo. You know how life is out there. That's one thing. And the other thing is,
are you saying Flo was not as nice to Tua as Mike McDaniel is?
You can draw your own conclusion. I don't want to say that. But yeah, so you have that, and then the Dolphins can also tell Tua, look, we're giving you guaranteed money here. I'm putting it on the table. But if you break a finger or if you get a concussion, you know that guaranteed money is going down, not just from us, but from anybody else out there on the market. So you need to sign what we're giving you right now, even if it's a below market deal. If I'm Tua, I'm gambling on myself. And if I'm the Dolphins, I want to win, but I'm hoping that, maybe Mike White leads me to 4 or 5 victories or something like that,
No, and it's going to be a very difficult conversation, or conversations, I should say, between the Dolphins and Tua's representation, which is probably why nothing has gotten done yet, even though the Dolphins keep sending out the signals that they want him for the long run. But I think they want him for the long run at their price.
Right. Correct.
And I'm sure Tua's agents are looking at Jalen Hurts, who's the latest one who signed a long-term contract as quarterback. I can't even remember.
But yeah, you're still looking at Justin Herbert. I think you're looking at all these guys. And here's the thing with me, Poop, with Tua that I've repeatedly said: Tua is a Pro Bowl quarterback, a legit Pro Bowl quarterback, but he needs help, and that's the case with 90% of these quarterbacks. My big thing is, once they get to, I don't care what you pay them in average annual salary. Pay them $55 million if you want. I'm concerned about the salary cap number, which is the number that restricts you. Once these quarterbacks get to 45, 47 million, it restricts your ability to build around them significant, meaningful additions, right? Daniel Jones is 47 million on the cap. Dak Prescott, 55 million on the cap. And crazy, Deshaun Watson, 63 million on the cap. It's hard to build around these guys the necessary pieces, not luxury pieces, necessary pieces. And so this is the thing with me and the Dolphins where it relates to Tua is you've got to keep him at a cheap cost as long as possible, including this year on the $23.1 million fifth-year option. And if you sign him to an extension, you've got to ask for a hometown discount. Just knowing, first of all, that Tua hasn't proven to you that he can stay healthy for 2 straight years, but also he's going to need some help. And I know it's not in the best interest
Perk, let me interject here because the point you just made is going to get some massive pushback, and I want to jump here, kind of on your side, kind of helping you out, kind of doing one of these, like, a little
all right, yeah.
You like that, right? Okay. We understand, Perk and I, unless I'm severely mistaken, every cornerback needs help. Mm-hmm. Just like, for example, every quarterback in the NFL can complete a deep pass. Everything is about degrees. Right. How much help do you need? How often do you need to succeed? And for example, Patrick Mahomes, yes, he needs help. He doesn't need as much help as often as other quarterbacks because he's Patrick Mahomes. And there are varying degrees like that. And the question with the Dolphins that they have to ask themselves, and it's a legitimate question whether fans want to hear it or not, is how much help does Tua need? Tua is a perfect fit for the offense as designed right now. It's also the fastest offense possibly in the history of the NFL. Mm-hmm. Will it always remain that way? Who knows? And if it's not anymore, then what happens is Tua's effectiveness get affected. And to what degree? Again, everything's about degrees.
Right. That's true. And look, it's nothing against Tua, and every situation is different. And so to me, in the Dolphins situation, I'm looking at building up the run game and building up the defense to help Tua. He's got the offensive weapons. I'm not talking about getting him more running backs and more receivers and a better tight end.
Which they did anyway. Which they did anyway. Look, a lot of this is also going to be on Mike McDaniel and Anthony Weaver, because Mike McDaniel, I keep saying he's got to use the talent differently. You're not going to be as talented as you were last year, man for man, but you can still be a better team. You can still have a better outcome to the season. Let's use that number 3 receiver. Let's call plays differently in short yardage, in red zone. Let's use that big bulky back for short yardage, Chris Brooks. Let's do some things differently. We know that Anthony Weaver has said that he wants to do some things differently, right? Starting with Jalen Ramsey, using him as a chess piece. We think that he's going to blitz more often than Vic Fangio did last season. So he's going to play more man-to-man. Vic Fangio was a zone guy. So we're going to see some differences with Anthony Weaver using the talent differently. I want to see that offensively from Mike McDaniel. I think that's a big way that you help Tua out. To me, what happened when the Dolphins played good teams was the good team said, all right, we're going to do as much as we can to slow down Tyreek Hill, because we know if Tyreek struggles, that offense is going to struggle. And if I'm not mistaken, in the 7 games against playoff teams last year, Tyreek had 35 receptions, I want to say 572 yards and 3 touchdowns. So Tyreek getting 572 yards receiving in 7 games is not going to win unless you have a number 3 receiver or somebody else to do some damage like that. So that's the kind of help that I'm thinking about with Tua. It's play calling help, the defensive help, all kinds of things, but you're also going to need some money to get some talent in. Yeah, I did the research on that because my perception, and I saw that there were other writers in the market who suggested, well, everybody needs to be better against playoff opponents. Yeah, absolutely. Tyreek dropped too many passes in a lot of games. I believe, unless I'm mistaken, I did the math at the time, that his numbers against playoff opponents projects to a full season to 1,300 yards. So I don't know if that's the issue there in terms of production. Obviously, stop with the drop passes. That would help. It could be as simple for the Dolphins as be better in the clutch, because they had, again, I hope the numbers don't fail me, but 6 fourth quarter comeback opportunities last year, and they were 2-4. They succeeded against the Chargers. Sorry, they succeeded against Dallas, but they came up short against the Eagles. They came up short against the Chiefs in Germany. They came up short against the Bills, and they came up short against Tennessee. They got to be better in that area. And if they take care of that, and that's on everybody, then who knows? Maybe they can take that next step.
And look, Poop, I'm sorry to interrupt. I haven't, I think that Tua's numbers against playoff teams were decent. I don't think that Tua is the problem here. So I don't want people to think I'm saying that it's Tua. It's the entire team, defense, run game, play calling. It's everything. I mean, Jason Sanders might be the most money guy in the clutch on this team over the last 2 years. Everybody has got to be better. Mike McDaniel has got to be better with play calling, getting the calls into the huddle. I'm not just saying that Tua needs help, that Tyreek has got to be better and Tua's got to complete more passes. The Dolphins have to be better, and they've got to help their quarterback be better.
No, I agree. But if you saw me shaking my head at you, no, I don't. Tua's numbers were not very good against playoff teams. But it's not on him, and I've never once said that everything was on him. But but the problem is in this, and I wrote this on the website si.com/NFL/Dolphins, that last year when the Dolphins came up short, he was more part of the problem than he was part of the solution. While saying it's not all on him, there's a difference that needs to be made. You comfortable with the personnel on the offense, or do they have a missing piece still?
Boy, people always go offensive line, Dolphins fans, and especially at guard. I'm not that worried about the offensive line, especially the interior offensive line, because you've got a lot of candidates to choose among. And Butch Berry, the offensive line coach, did a really good job with those guys last season. On top of everything else, you talk about the fastest offense in the league, they get the ball out fast. So the fact that the offensive line is not that great at, man for man, they don't have to maintain those blocks for very long. So, no, I'm not really looking at offensive line. If somebody comes along after training camp cuts and they're going to be a clear upgrade, bring them in. I'm going to camp as is, and I'm okay. Offensively, I'm going to camp as is, and I'm seeing what's there and what shakes out. See what happens at the tight end position. See what happens for number 3 receiver. I mean, that better be Odell, just a right end, but let's see what happens. I'm not worried about the offense very much at all, as far as personnel.
No, I hear you. No, I'm kind of the same way. It's like, no, I don't think it's a screaming need. And I'll tell you one thing is, I keep hearing this stat and seeing the stat. Dolphins were 31st in pass block win rate.
Yeah.
Did I miss something? Because I don't recall like Tua being under duress, under pressure, like every single solitary game. There were games, there was more pressure on him than others. But and yes, he absolutely was helped by the quick passing and his ability to get rid of the ball quickly. But I think if you read 31st in pass block win rate, it puts an image in your mind of, man, this offensive line couldn't pass block. And I don't think that's reality. I mean, tell me I'm wrong here.
No, you're
blessing. You can tell me I'm wrong.
No, you're right. Listen, to me, the problem comes in like late in the season, and we talk about Tua not being that great late in the season, when Tyreek is limping and Jalen Waddle is limping, and now you don't have that same pass, that same timing on the passes, and the offensive line has to maintain the blocks a little bit longer. And Tua is not an agile, mobile quarterback. He does not improvise very much, and so now these problems start to snowball. The offense can't operate, the passing game, I should say, can't operate the way it operates at its peak efficiency. It doesn't really have a plan B. This pass game is fast, speed, timing. And if that gets thrown off, there's really not a mechanism to, 3 steps and hold it, wait for that tight end on the seam route. The offensive line, they're going to struggle with maintaining those blocks. And once that happens, now Tua's mobility becomes a factor and things start to go downhill.
Except that we're going to have a lighter, logically quicker Tua, because the thing is, Tua bulked up for last season. I think we all know that, and that affected his mobility. The dude was not very mobile last year. I wouldn't say he was Marino-like, but he wasn't mobile. He was Chad Henne-like, I would say. And I think this year, if he does thin out and regain some of the mobility, I mean, he could move around the pocket in his first couple of years, and I think that'd be going to become an important facet of this offense.
How is Tua on off schedule plays? Because agility and moving is right, but that's one thing. I mean, Tannehill had the agility and he had running ability also as far as agility. Tua doesn't have that, and he's got the concussion issue, so we're not going to see him run very much. But just take away the mobility and agility, the improvising, but the off schedule stuff. I'm not sure that's been a strength of Tua. You know better than I do pre-COVID, but since Mike McDaniel has come in, that hasn't been a strength of Tua. Do you think we're going to see an improvement in that because of his mobility being better? Probably.
Yes, because he has made some plays on the run off schedule before. Last year there were very, very few of those, and I think part of it was because again he got thicker. I don't think he'll ever be like Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen in terms of the ability to create something out of nothing, but I do think it's going to be better than last year. And here's with everything else, every little piece of improvement you can have makes things better in the overall picture. So,
right.
This is why I see, yes, there's absolutely reason for a lot of hope for this offense. And I'm with you on, I don't think they need the addition of Odell Beckham Jr., flushes out the wide receiver core. Jonnu Smith to me is a great addition to tight end. I think they're good there. They have running backs up the wazoo. They're set at quarterback. I think the offensive line is okay. Even though could they use John Hanna from the 1970s to play right guard? Sure, but he's not.
They could use Connor Williams from 2023.
There you go. To me, the one glaring hole on this team, and we'll wrap this up with this, the one glaring hole on this team right now is safety, because I'm not sure the Dolphins should be depending on Jordan Poyer to give them a full, really good season at safety at 33 years old, coming off a less than Jordan Poyer-like season.
I go D tackle. And the Jordan Poyer, I agree with you on that. And Javon Holland is good. Elijah Campbell is back there as your backup, so you are thin there. But DT, boy, you are really, really thin there. Zach Sealer, good luck to you early in the season, because you don't have Christian Wilkins, you don't have Bradley Chubb, you don't have Jalen Phillips. And if I'm an offensive coordinator, I'm like, we're putting 3 bodies on Zach Sealer, and the rest of them will just whatever happens. But yeah, Zach, life is about to get really, really rough for you. You need somebody else, some other kind of presence. You're not going to get a Christian Wilkins. You're not going to get an Aaron Donald. Some other kind of early season presence there just to lighten the load on Zach Sealer, get some run defense. You're not looking for a 4-sack guy or 6-sack guy next to Sealer. Let's be realistic. You just need a vet who can take up some space and hold off some blocks and clear some space for David Long and Jordan Brooks at linebacker, clear some space for Zach Sealer, that kind of thing. I don't think that player is on this roster at this point.
Okay, that's fair. Okay, I certainly could see them adding somebody, after June 1st when they get the Xavier Howard money. So.
Yeah.
Okay, any parting thoughts, Mr. Perkins?
Well, I'll say this. We're going to have a rookie camp this week, and you're not going to be able to see anything. It's another glorified underwear Olympics. However, I do always say with these camps, Poop, you want to see guys that just look like they're aware, right? That they're ready, that they're agile, that they're athletic, that they can handle the moment. And I know last year we went crazy about Sean Smith, right? He's deflecting a lot of passes, and
Cam Smith.
See it that way.
Cam Smith.
Or Cam Smith.
Little flashback here.
I know, that's incredible, isn't it? But yeah, so I this week I want to see how these guys look, and we're not going to get to see them for very long, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, but just be, have some, I guess, some NFL polish to you, some rookie camp polish. Don't look lost. Don't be taking the wrong step. Don't look overweight, all that kind of stuff. Be smooth and give us some promise, give us some hope, give us some optimism.
Yeah, and to me, one thing I look at, and just beyond the rookie minicamp, also during OTAs, is the new guys, especially like running backs and wide receivers, how smoothly are they catching the ball? Because I remember a couple of years ago, Dolphins selected Jared Dokes in the 7th round out of Cincinnati, and a lot of fans were like really excited about the possibilities, and he ran hard. And for me, from the start, every time he was thrown a pass in the spring, he was fighting the ball. And it was like, it was startling to me. And lo and behold, when we got into the preseason, and it was like that was still an issue, and he wound up not being a factor. I don't even know if he's still in the league or if he's trying to latch on somewhere. Who knows? Anyway, that's going to wrap it up. Perk, and appreciate the time. We will be doing this again with you, my friend, next week. We'll talk some more foolishness as we always do. In the meantime, excuse me, gang, everybody. We'll be back tomorrow, Friday. We'll recap the Dolphins. We'll make available the Dolphin draft picks and whatever we can glean out of the limited viewing time that we have for rookie minicamp. We'll certainly pass that along. On that note, thanks, everyone.